Welcome to AGX Media's Silver Money Masterclass, a program aimed at teaching you how to navigate the ever-evolving world of money and how you can protect your wealth. This three-part series will look at many angles of today's economy, touching on the evolution of money, the value found in real assets like gold and silver, and how these assets are making a comeback thanks to emerging technologies. So let's get straight to it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and make sure you don't miss a single episode of the Silver Money Masterclass. Is money real? What if I told you that money isn't limited to paper or digits? That in reality, it was whatever we believe it to be? Let's start with a simple question. What is money? The truth is, money is a concept. It's a mutual promise of value represented by an object or number. Money is fluid. It's evolving right before our very eyes, and it's time to lift the fog to learn the ways to protect and preserve our wealth. Unlike currency, which is a medium of exchange that is portable, durable, divisible, and fungible, money has one added feature that currency is missing. Money is a store of value over time. In essence, it's a construct built to ensure the bearer preserves its wealth over a longer period, which means that in order for money to be good, it must have intrinsic value. But did you know that when we look at the money of today, whether it was the dollar, the euro, or the yuan, that the intrinsic value is essentially worthless? That's right. Contrary to popular belief, almost all of the world's money is backed by nothing but debt, making it effectively worthless. The result is inflation, turmoil, and the erosion of the middle class. So how can we expect to protect our wealth? How can we bank our wealth on a promise that is backed by debt? To understand the solution, we have to start at the beginning by taking a look back at the history of money and how fiat money came to be. Thousands of years ago, humans relied on barter. If you were a farmer who produced crops, you would trade those crops for other goods, and this was how commerce was conducted. However, with the evolving needs and wants as society grew, the barter system proved to be insufficient. There was a need for a universal third good that everyone wanted. Cue money. As long as this third good was durable enough and hard enough to get, anything could serve as money, and we've seen this throughout history. We've used everything from cattle, alcohol, cowrie shells, and even cigarettes. In ancient China, merchants traded tools that eventually took the form of coins. But it was really in Lydia, what is now known as Turkey, around 600 BC, that the first coins were created, and they were made of electrum, which is an alloy of gold and silver. Merchants trusted the worth of these coins, but with time, this commodity money proved to be heavy, risky to transport, and subject to debasing if someone melted them down to alter their value. This is when paper money came into play, and paper money made its first appearances in China. After having successfully created its own coinage system, the Chinese economy evolved again and trade deals got bigger. So the Chinese needed to adapt this monetary system. They decided to start handing out pieces of paper that could be redeemed for whatever number of coins was listed on that paper. Effectively, it was an IOU. These paper slips started circulating everywhere. So much, in fact, that the merchants started trading these papers as money rather than redeeming them after every transaction. When Marco Polo visited China in the 1200s, he saw paper money firsthand and brought the idea back to Europe. Merchants around the world started trading these paper notes, which naturally gave rise to banks. But paper money wouldn't see widespread adoption in the West until about the mid-1600s, when banks started issuing notes that promised to pay the bearer gold on demand. These were known as banknotes. But soon, the banks saw an opportunity to capitalize. They realized that these merchants were trading these banknotes between each other without even using the bank, meaning they only needed to hold a fraction of the reserve at any given time, and the rest could be used to produce loans for new customers. Effectively, the bank began creating more money than was in existence. This became known as double entry bookkeeping or fractional reserve banking. In the 1940s, the world saw credit come into play in a similar way to that of the modern-day credit card. But it wasn't until 1971 that money moved completely away from its backing when Nixon temporarily suspended the gold standard.
Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Money went from partially backed to being completely unbacked, and that temporary suspension became permanent. This brings us to the modern day, where now almost all of global currency is supported by a nation's debt. After the financial crash of 2008, the veil of unbacked money was lifted and people returned to the idea of wanting money that was a guarantee of value rather than just an empty promise. This resulted in the birth of one of the most notorious currencies of all time, Bitcoin. Because of the blockchain technology that underpinned Bitcoin, only 21 million could ever be held, and Bitcoin has become one of the greatest stores of value in the modern age. But despite being a great store of value, the lack of backing meant that it was still too volatile to work as functional money. It has no intrinsic value other than the faith that people put into it. So people today are still searching for an asset that can guarantee stability and security. As we evolve into a cashless society, people need to ask themselves how they can find money that is not merely based on an empty promise. We've already seen the collapse of governments and how the endless printing of fiat currency not only dilutes the value, but makes them poor choices for holding to preserve one's wealth. We need to look for assets that have inherent value that is more than just an empty promise. But could these assets already exist? Throughout history, and during economic instability, people have flocked to gold and silver, two assets that have stood the test of time and maintained their worth for millennia. As we evolve into a digital world of ones and zeros, could the solution be to use modern technology to reintegrate real assets like gold and silver back into our money? Why are silver and gold intrinsically valuable? We will be asking these questions during the next episode of the Silver Money Masterclass, when we take a deeper dive into how new money is affecting our global economy and why hard assets like gold and silver have proven to hold real value for thousands of years.